Hi gardeners, today we're going to talk all about fertilizer. So you may want to take some notes. It'll be a little bit longer video than what I normally do, but I want to break down all the options for you, why you use what you use and when you use it. So to do that, I came to Morristown Hardware today. It is the hardware store closest to me where I shop, and they have all the options that I like, and I thought it would be the perfect place to show you around. So come on, let's take a look. So let's start here, since this is the thing I most often recommend to everybody. This is organic fish fertilizer, and it's what I have told most of you guys to buy when you ask my opinion, when you're starting out with all your seeds starting in the beginning of spring, like at the end of winter there, but you're not going to use this all season long. I do like this because it is organic and all natural, and I like the ratio of macronutrients in this one, and I need to explain to you what these mean. So these numbers right here are very important. You're going to see every single fertilizer will have these three numbers, different numbers, but three like this. And this is the ratio of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, because those are the main building blocks of fertilizer everywhere. And you will base your decision on what you're going to use based on what you need in terms of what those things do for your garden. So let's talk about that. So here's a good example to look at on this bag because it's so large. Sometimes the numbers are hard to find, but on this bag, this is right here, easy for you to see. This first number is your nitrogen, this is your phosphorus, and this is your potassium. And they have different roles in the garden. So nitrogen is the building block of everything that you see that is green. The leaves on the trees, on the grass, and everything else, everything that encourages green growth comes from nitrogen. And so it's really important. I recommend it when you first start gardening, when you're doing your seedlings, you want to make sure you have good nitrogen to really get them to start growing and to turn green. You will also want to use this when, if you see your plants looking pale, might be a nitrogen need there. And then as we move through the season, I really want to increase the amount of phosphorus, the second number here, because that encourages flower growth. And if you don't have phosphorus in your soil, what happens is you'll get these big, beautiful green plants and no fruit on them. And then later on, I want to make sure I have some potassium as well, because potassium supports the overall health and structure of the plant. So again, as you move through the season, important to pay less attention to your nitrogen. You still need nitrogen there, but you want to make sure you're adding phosphorus and potassium in there as well to get that full balance for protection of fruits and vegetables in your garden. A line of products that I really like and I use all the time. It's made by Espoma, and they make the whole line of fertilizers, and they have organic and not organic. So if you are an organic gardener, make sure you find the organic label and that you don't buy the one that is not organic. They're great products either way, but this is the organic product right here. And then let's take a look at these numbers on the back. Remember I said how big and beautiful those numbers were on that giant bag of fertilizer? Sometimes you have to hunt for them. So here on the back of this, in much smaller numbers, I can see that 3-digit number right there, 12, 0, and 0. So what that tells me is this is really just nitrogen in this bag. No phosphorus, no potassium. And this is again great when you are trying to encourage green growth at any point in your vegetable garden. Probably good for like lettuces and anything that we're just looking for the green, we're not looking for fruit. But this is also what your lawn is fertilized with, is only nitrogen, because you just want a green lawn. You don't want your lawn to flower. So what I see a lot happen is with people who have fertilized their lawn for years and years and years, then they go to start a vegetable garden, and there's all this nitrogen in the soil, and you don't have the two other macronutrients, phosphorus and potassium. And what happens is I see gardeners get really beautiful green leafy tomatoes and no tomatoes, and I start to wonder, maybe they've been fertilizing this lawn with nitrogen all these years, and we need to go back and make sure we have the other macronutrients present. So as I move through the season, I start adding less nitrogen. I still add nitrogen, but add less, and I make sure I pick a fertilizer that has a higher phosphorus and potassium number, because I want to encourage that growth of flowers. There are ways to troubleshoot in your garden as well. So let me give you an example. If you have beautiful green plants in your garden but no flowers, that means you probably need more phosphorus to encourage that growth. If you have plants that you see looking pale, like the leaves are paler and you know they should be darker green, that's a nitrogen issue, and you're going to want to go back and make sure there is nitrogen. And over the course of the season, your soil is going to lose nutrients, especially with some of these heavy rainfalls, and it washes some of the nutrients out of the soil, and your plants are also scooping up that nutrients as they grow. You want to make sure you're adding it back in. So I fertilize about weekly in my backyard to make sure, unless I'm seeing an issue in which I troubleshoot and choose a different solution for that circumstance. So the next thing I want to explain to you is the difference between synthetic and organic fertilizers. Synthetic fertilizers are made in a factory. They are manufactured from chemicals and other methods. And organic fertilizers are mined and are sourced in a more natural setting. So that's why I choose to use them. I don't want to use synthetics. And the other issue is I find that most synthetic fertilizers are only going to have your 3 macronutrients, that nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and that's it. But most organics, whether they list it or not, are also filled with micronutrients like magnesium. They might have a little calcium in them. Just trace amounts is all you need. They are micronutrients, but you won't find them in synthetics, and it's another reason I like to stick to organic fertilizers, because I know I'm nourishing my soil and the whole plant by using organics only. So here's a good example. This is not a synthetic. This is an organic. And it's lobster, kelp, and worm castings. And you can see your ratio here is quite a bit of good nitrogen. You've got a little bit of phosphorus in there and a good amount of potassium. So this could be a very good fertilizer to add late in the season when your garden is thriving and you just want to keep it going. The other thing you should know about this is synthetic fertilizers tend to be easier on your pocketbook because they're heavily concentrated. You'll see those high numbers, 25, 25, 25, like that, because they're used by landscapers and they're used by farmers, and they need that concentrated level for the lowest price they can get. So when you buy organic, you're going to see much smaller numbers. And for a vegetable garden, that's absolutely okay. We're going to fertilize every week, and it's worth it to me to have the lower concentration to get what I really want for my garden. Another thing to consider is the form that your fertilizer takes. This is granulated and this is liquid. They're both pretty concentrated, but you'll handle them differently in the garden. If you have a liquid concentrate, you're going to follow the directions on this, put it in your watering can and mix it with water. I believe this one's about a tablespoon of fertilizer to a gallon of water, and you're going to want to water your plants with that and then go remix that batch. When you do a granulated like this tomato tone, what you'll want to do is work the granules in the soil around them. So you can top dress, but it takes a little longer for it to get to the roots that way. So what I normally like to do is take a little spade or like a garden fork, put a little of the granulated around my plants that I'm trying to fertilize, and just work it in with the soil a little bit and then water it really well so it gets down into the roots. I don't think liquid versus granular matters much. It's really a personal preference and what your garden needs at the moment, and I use both. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about today is a new product I started using this year, and I'm so pleased with it, I wanted to tell you about it. So this is called PT Booster, and it is not a fertilizer. What this is fulvic and humic acid, and it's natural compound that is formed as soil breaks down, and they have bottled it in concentrate like this. And what this does is it allows your plants to have the best possible, fastest uptake of nutrients. So sometimes you'll be frustrated by you're fertilizing and you're not seeing the impact, and there's a bunch of things that can prevent plants from having good uptake of those nutrients. They can be sitting right in the soil and they can't get to them. One of them would be if it's very dry all the time, you need to make sure you water well, but also the health of the plant is really important. Sometimes a plant can just be in the ground and unable to uptake the nutrients for many different reasons. So this is kind of the solution to it. When you feed, I mix this in with my liquid fertilizer. I mix the concentrations together and I water my garden, and I have seen a dramatic difference. So the owner of the company reached out to me at the beginning of the year and she said, do you want to try this? And I love women-owned businesses, and she's actually local also. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll try it. I'm not a paid sponsor for them, but she just gave me one container to try. And I was really impressed what it did to the seedlings. So I did a side-by-side comparison, and I can post this picture if you want to see it. On my celery seedlings, I used the PT Booster on one set, and I didn't use it on the other set. Everything else was identical. And my celery seedlings that I used the PT Booster on were twice as tall before I planted them in the garden. So when you would want to use this is, I love it for seedlings. I love it for transplanting, because when you're taking the seedling out of the tray, moving it to its new home, what you want more than anything is really good root structure at that moment in time, so it can really develop good roots You'll save yourself time fertilizing and watering and everything else if you take that moment to take that important step early in the spring when the plant is really getting settled in the soil. So there's lots of ways to apply this. You can mix it in your watering can like I do. You can spray it. You can put it in a spray bottle, dilute it, and use a foliar spray right on your vegetables. And all the instructions are on the bottle. So if you're going to try one new thing this year, this would be the thing that I would try. I've been really happy, and I feel like I don't use a lot of different products, but I think this is one that I'm going to add to my circulation in my garden for years to come. So please let me know if you have questions about all these. If you're seeing something in particular in your garden and you think that fertilizer is the issue, but you don't know what to do, I would love to answer those questions for you.